Monkees, the Blues Brothers, Spinal Tap, and so much more. Today we're taking a look at rock bands that never existed.
Before we begin, I want to remind you that if you love comics and pop culture as much as I do, you'll subscribe to my channel and ring the bell to stay informed of upcoming videos. Please share this video, as that will help me gain subscribers as well. I also have my own franchises, Adolescent Radioactive Samurai Platypi and Carl Vincent Vampire Hunter. The latter has been picked up by Cutthroat Comics. Check the links below for more details and the link to Dracula Rising, which is available on Amazon. And now,
on with the show, this is it.
Will the real David Jones please stand up?
I am standing up.
This week, we'll look at bands that never existed. Well, sort of. Let's start with the Monkees. It's interesting to note that the Monkees began as a manufactured band to coincide with a TV series, and, at first, they used outside musicians and writers to create the music, though Mickey and Davey did do all the singing, but by the time they released the album Headquarters, they were performing their own music. Thus they graduated to the ranks of a real band after all. The Monkees were a rock and pop band, formed in Los Angeles in 1966, whose lineup consisted of the American actor/musicians Mickey Dolenz, Michael Nesmith and Peter Tork alongside English actor/singer Davy Jones. The group was conceived in 1965 by television producers Bob Rafelson and Bert Schneider for the situation comedy series of the same name. Music credited to the band was released on LP, as well as being included in the show, which aired from 1966 to 1968. While the sitcom was a mostly straightforward affair, the music production generated tension and controversy almost from the beginning. Music supervisor Don Kirshner was dissatisfied with the actor/musician's musical abilities, and he limited their involvement during the recording process, relying instead on professional songwriters and studio musicians. This arrangement yielded multiple hit albums and singles, but it did not sit well with the band members, who were facing public backlash for not playing on the recordings. After a brief power struggle, the band members gained full control over the recording process. For 2 albums, the Monkees mostly performed as a group, but within a year, each member was pursuing his own interests under the Monkees name. By the end of 1968, they were once again a group in name only. The show had been cancelled, and their motion picture, Head, had flopped. Tork left the band soon after, followed by Nesmith a year later, and the Monkees officially broke up in 1970.
Sugar, oh honey, honey, you are my candy girl.
The Archies is a fictional American band that features in media produced by, and related to, Archie Comics. They are best remembered for their appearance in the animated TV series The Archie Show. In the context of the series, the band was founded by vocalist/guitarist Archie Andrews, bassist Reggie Mantle, drummer Forsyth Jughead Jones, vocalist/keyboardist Veronica Lodge and vocalist/percussionist Betty Cooper. In the cartoons, Veronica is shown playing a large keyboard instrument styled after the X66, a then current top-of-the-line organ made by the Hammond Organ Company. The music featured in the series was recorded by session musicians, including Ron Dante on lead vocals and Tony Wine on duet and backing vocals. The recordings were released as a series of singles and albums that achieved worldwide chart success. Their most successful song, Sugar, Sugar, became one of the biggest hits of the bubblegum pop genre that flourished from 1968 to 1973. The Ruggles were a rock band that performed visual and oral pastiches and parodies of the Beatles. This originally fictional band, created by Eric Idle and Neil Innes for a sketch in Idle's mid-1970s BBC television comedy series Rutland Weekend Television. Written by Idle and Innes, All You Need Is Cash documents the rise and fall of the Ruggles, paralleling much of the history of the Beatles. The project was given extra recognition through Harrison's support, as well as providing ideas. He supplied Idle and Innes with a copy of the Beatles' long-planned documentary, The Long and Winding Road. Idle drew inspiration from this 1976 version of the documentary, as compiled by Neil Aspinall, and was granted permission to use some of the archival footage to tell the Ruggles story. Innes wrote, composed, and produced the music. He relied on his memory of Beatles music, and not careful later analysis, to create sound-alike songs. Innes assembled a band and the group played in a London pub to gel. During Ruggles' performances and studio recordings, Innes took lead on the songs that resembled Lennon's. What did the Beatles think of this project? George Harrison was involved in the project from the beginning. Producer Gary Weiss said, "We were sitting around in Eric's kitchen one day, planning a sequence that really ripped into the mythology, and George looked up and said, 'We were the Beatles, you know.' Then he shook his head and said, "Ah, never mind. I think he was the only one of the Beatles who really could see the irony of it all." Harrison said, "The Ruggles sort of liberated me from the Beatles in a way. It was the only thing I saw of those Beatles television shows they made. It was actually the best, funniest, and most scathing. But at the same time, it was done with the most love." Ringo Starr liked the happier scenes in the film, but felt the scenes that mimic sadder times hit too close. John Lennon loved the film and refused to return the videotape and soundtrack he was given for approval. He told Innes, however, that Get Up and Go was too close to the Beatles' Get Back and to be careful not to be sued by ATV Music, owners of the Beatles' catalog copyright at the time. The Blues Brothers are an American blues and soul revivalist band founded in 1978 by comedians Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi as part of a musical sketch on Saturday Night Live. Belushi and Aykroyd fronted the band, in character, respectively, as lead vocalist Joliet Jake Blues and harmonica player/vocalist Elwood Blues, donning black suits with matching fedoras and sunglasses. The band was composed of well-known musicians, and debuted as the musical guest in a 1978 episode of Saturday Night Live, opening the show performing Hey Bartender and later Soul Man. In 1978, the band released their debut album, Briefcase Full of Blues, and opened for the Grateful Dead at the closing of Winterland Arena in San Francisco. They gained further fame after spawning a Hollywood comedy film in 1980, The Blues Brothers. After Belushi's death in 1982, the Blues Brothers continued to perform with a rotation of guest singers and other band members. The band reformed in 1988 for a world tour and again in 1998 for a sequel film, Blues Brothers 2000. The genesis of the Blues Brothers was a January 17, 1976 Saturday Night Live sketch. In it, Howard Shore and his Albee Band play the Slim Harpo song I'm a King Bee, with Belushi singing and Aykroyd playing harmonica, dressed in the bee costumes they wore for the Killer Bees sketches. In 1978, guitarist Arlen Roth was performing on SNL with Art Garfunkel, who was that week's host of the show. Before the actual live show, Belushi and Aykroyd asked Roth and others to join them on stage in the outfits that would later become the Blues Brothers look. Roth taught Belushi the lyrics to Rocket 88 so they could perform it that night.
You put a greased, naked woman on all fours with a dog collar around her neck and a leash. And a man's arm extended out up to here, holding on to the leash and pushing a black glove in her face to sniff it. You don't find that offensive?
No,
you don't find that sexist?
This is 1982. This is Spinal Tap is a 1984 American mockumentary film co-written and directed by Rob Reiner. The film stars Christopher Guest, Michael McKean and Harry Shearer as members of the fictional British heavy metal band Spinal Tap, one of England's loudest bands, with Reiner as Marty D. Berge, a documentary filmmaker who follows them on their American tour. The film satirizes the behavior and musical pretensions of rock bands and the hagiographic tendencies of rock documentaries such as The Song Remains the Same, 1976, and The Last Waltz, 1978, and follows the similar All You Need Is Cash, 1978, by the Ruggles. Most of its dialogue was improvised and dozens of hours were filmed. This is Spinal Tap was released to critical acclaim, but its initial release found only modest commercial success. Its later VHS release, however, brought it greater success and a cult following. In 2002, it was deemed culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant by the Library of Congress, and was selected for preservation by the National Film Registry. In May 2022, director Rob Reiner announced that he is working on a sequel to the film, which will include him returning to play D. Berge and McKean, Shearer, and Guest as the members of Spinal Tap. The film will be Castle Rock Entertainment's first film following its revival in 2021. Rockstar is a 2001 American musical comedy drama film directed by Stephen Hurek from a script by John Stockwell and starring Mark Wahlberg and Jennifer Aniston. It tells the story of Chris Izzy Cole, a tribute band singer who ascended to the position of lead vocalist of his favorite band. The script was inspired by the real-life story of Tim Ripper Owens, singer in a Judas Priest tribute band who was chosen to replace singer Rob Halford when he left the band. After optioning the filming rights to a New York Times profile of Owens by Andrew Revkin, Warner Brothers hired Stockwell to write the script. Brad Pitt was initially signed to play the lead role but left due to creative differences, and Wahlberg was eventually hired for the part. Wahlberg spent 5 months preparing for his role as Chris Cole, working with a vocal coach, growing his hair, attending the metal scene and wandering around Los Angeles in character. A concert scene was shot at the Los Angeles Memorial Sports Arena before 10,000 Metallica and Megadeth fans. While filming one Steel Dragon performance, the crew pranked Wahlberg by playing Marky Mark's Good Vibrations instead of a rock track, and footage of this is featured during the film's end credits. By 2001, Warner renamed the project from Metal God to Rockstar in order to attract a broader rock fandom instead of just metal fans. That was our look at fake rock bands in the music industry. What did you think of the show? What was your favorite fictitious rock band? Until next time, this is Andrew in for Kevin Given saying live long and prosper, may the force be with you and keep reaching for the stars.